Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the November 20th, 2005 Planning Board meeting. Glad to have you here this evening. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. We appreciate it very much. Lucy, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Barhu. Present. Mr. McLean.
Here.
Mr. Robinson. Present. Mr. Servance. Ms. Washington. Mr. Weatherholz.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, slipped in under the wire. Wonderful. Okay. Next, move on to item number 3, approval of the minutes of the October 23rd, 2025 Planning Board meeting. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Any citizens who would like to address the board this evening concerning the items on the agenda, we ask you to fill out the green comment form I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. When you come to the lectern, please state your name and your address for the record. Time limit of 3 minutes, and I always like to say, or less, if you could make your point in that period of time, but certainly if you need the 3 minutes to make the points you'd like to make, that will be just fine. We could move on to item 4A, please. Hear from staff, and staff is making her way up here. Hey, Dana-Lee, how are you?
Hello.
Hi.
So good evening, Dana-Lee Pettick, Senior Planner. This item is a request to amend the Sunglow Mini Storage Complex Plan Development. The microphones are echoing again. Can we fix that, please? Does it every time I speak into this? The feedback? Do you hear it?
We don't hear it, but
I hear it.
I am not doubting that for a moment.
So anyway, where was I? Let's just start over. So good evening, Dana-Lee Pettick, Senior Planner. This item is a request to amend the Sunglow Mini Storage Complex Plan Development to incorporate an additional 0.61 acres of property into the PD and to revise the landscape and tree preservation requirements to reduce the overall landscaping provided on site. So the property is located 500 feet north of the LPGA Boulevard and Jimmy Ann Drive intersection. The future land use on the property is mixed use in Volusia County. The zoning on the property is the Sunglow Mini Storage Complex PD, which will remain, and the Volusia County zoning on the 0.61 acre property to be annexed and added into the PD. So this is the aerial, which shows the property. However, the property is currently under construction for the mini storage complex, so it's no longer this wooded lot. So in 2020, the property was originally rezoned to the plan development for self-storage mini warehouse and office uses. In 2023, the First Amendment to the PD was approved to expand the development program to allow additional self-storage units and RV parking spaces. With each approval, the applicant requested waivers from the landscape requirements of the Land Development Code in exchange for enhanced or increased buffers as detailed in the staff report. So in 2024, the site plans were approved for the development and the project is under construction and is nearing completion, like I said. Now, the applicant is requesting the Second Amendment to the PD to revise the landscape and tree preservation requirements a third time to reduce the total landscaping provided on site. So the proposed changes to the PD are to add the additional acreage and to modify the landscaping and tree preservation requirements. So first, the amendment proposes to add an additional 0.61 acres of property, which is to be annexed into the city, into the PD, and clarify there is no development occurring on this property. The 0.61 acre property is on the east side of the original PD boundary and is currently in Volusia County's jurisdiction. An annexation application is currently under review and will be heard concurrently with this amendment at the City Commission. The PD's amendment specifies this parcel, once incorporated into the PD, will have no development or entitlements on it. So this is the aerial showing the location of the property to be annexed in relation to the original PD boundaries. So second, the amendment will revise the landscape requirements to reduce the total tree inches retained, preserved, or planted on site and require the 0.61 acres of property to be placed under a tree preservation easement. So the waiver will be discussed later. However, the requirement for the annexed property to be placed under a tree preservation easement is included in the PD. So this property is the existing wooded lot located between the original PD boundary and the single family to the east. The parcel did not have any development plans associated with it, and due to its location, size, and configuration, it was unlikely to be developed in the near future. However, the tree preservation easement will ensure it remains undisturbed and will not be developed. So third, the amendment will allow trees located within the to-be-created tree preservation easement on the annexed property to count towards the minimum tree preservation and canopy coverage requirements on the original property. These trees were originally off-site. They were east of the PD and within the county's jurisdiction and would not contribute towards the tree calculations of this development. So the amendment would allow them to count towards the minimum tree preservation requirements to then allow the reduction of the landscaping provided on the original PD property. So the PD amendment also includes new exhibits to the PD, so the tree survey of the trees located in the annexed property to the east and the revised landscaping plans showing the reduction in plantings on the original PD property. So those are the landscape plans, and just for comparison, these are the approved landscape plans that were approved as part of the site plan, which is here. So the applicant requests one waiver to the Land Development Code to reduce the minimum tree coverage requirement from 6 inches of trees to be retained, preserved, or planted on site for every 2,500 square feet of property to 5 inches of trees for every 2,500 square feet of property. No additional trees are proposed for preservation as they are already existing and have not been removed, and there was no plans to remove them. However, the landscaping on site will be reduced significantly. So the applicant did inform us earlier today that due to an error in how they counted the trees of the off-site parcel being annexed, they will have enough trees, existing trees in that property, to no longer require this waiver, so they will meet this requirement. So the applicant will go into that in more detail when she makes her presentation. So the table here shows the difference between the approved site plans landscaping and the proposed reduction in the landscaping with this PD amendment. So the trees to be planted are reduced significantly in both quantity and total tree inches. So to illustrate this, here's a snippet of the northeast buffer on the approved site plans, and then this is the revised plans showing the reduction. So the site will still be required to meet the code minimum landscape buffers. However, the enhanced or increased landscape buffers proposed originally back in the original PD rezoning and the First Amendment will no longer be planted. For example, the First Amendment, the building perimeter landscaping was waived. As the applicant stated at the time, the heavily vegetated property perimeters and the landscape easterly buffers already addressed the visual impacts the industrial buildings would create. So now the building perimeter landscaping will not be provided because that was already waived, and neither will the increased vegetation in the property perimeter buffers. So with that, staff supports the Planning Board's recommendation to the City Commission. A majority vote by the Planning Board members present and voting is required to forward a recommendation to the City Commission, and the item is tentatively scheduled to be heard by the City Commission for first reading on January 7th, 2026, and for second reading on January 21st. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. I do have a question regarding the support, that the staff's going to support our recommendation. My question is, why isn't staff taking a position on this
We're remaining
item?
neutral on this one. So it's mostly up to the applicant to make their case and for you guys to decide what you would like to forward to the City Commission.
Okay.
Instead of us making a recommendation on it.
Understood. I just wanted to put that on the record. Mr. Robertson.
Why what?
It's going to be more subjective of whether you think it's appropriate or not that they have the landscaping. And they'll meet code requirements, so that would be staff's.
Just want to put that out there. It's a bit.
That it's up to you guys to determine if like the justification justifies this.
Okay. Makes sense.
I said that very well.
And any other questions for staff? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Could we hear from the applicant? Jessica, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. For the record, Jessica Gow at Cobb Cole Law Firm, 1 Daytona Boulevard, Daytona Beach, Florida. It's taken about a year, but I finally got used to the address change. So the background here on this site, we were not involved in the original PD or the First Amendment, but we came in during the Second Amendment for the landscaping review. I want to start by saying that the change to on-site versus off-site, and we've got some exhibits, Dan Ali showed them pretty well, but we can bring them up if we need, is based on kind of a policy decision on natural preservation and that 0.6 acres serving the purpose versus planting on-site. And so I will not say that there's not an economic function of this in site development. As costs increase, it is actually cheaper, which we may love to hear, to save natural areas on site than to plant pristine landscaping that is planted outside of the natural environment. And so this amendment focuses on the storage portion of the parcel. We had a neighborhood meeting. The site was already under development. All of the adjacent residents that we met with, and we'll see if we have any here tonight, were very excited about the development. It dealt with some issues with the homeless camp in the path in some of the wooded areas that are now the stormwater pond, where most of the trees being removed were located, and they thought that construction was going pretty well. That was a pretty long time ago in terms of when we met with them, just because we've worked out details with staff since. So when we met with the neighbors, we had 2 waivers. It was a waiver to the canopy coverage requirements, that 15% requirement on site, and also a waiver to the preservation of 6 inches per 2,500 square feet of development. After that meeting, we solved internally the 15% canopy coverage requirement on the existing landscape plans. And so then we were left with the 6 inches per 2,500 square feet of development. As a part of a discussion with one of the neighbors at the neighborhood meeting, actually, they pointed out that strip of trees that was adjacent to the site, and they said they kind of love to see that stay. And we said, we might be able to figure that out. And so we started working with staff. The property owner of the storage piece has purchased that property. There's a condition in the PD agreement that 0.6 acres will not get city zoning, and the PD, well, it'll get city zoning. It won't get city land use, and the PD agreement will divest it of any development rights, and that the city will get a conservation easement over that portion. So 0.6 acres of untouched land. It's got 221 trees in there, some great oaks, I think over 50 oak trees in there that we want to see preserved. The pre-existing site before construction, before anything started, had 100 trees. And it's post-condition, using that 0.6 acre strip in the landscaping plan, we're planting over 550 shade or understory trees. As Danilee noted, today I did my favorite kind of math, which is tree math. I would rather do calculus, I think, but determined that we well exceed that. Well, I won't say well exceed, but we exceed that 6 inches per 2,500 square foot requirement. So the waiver that was coming before you, we don't need it. It was just a miscalculation on the plans. And so the request tonight is, can we add the 0.6 acres of property to the PD agreement? Can we say that that will remain untouched and serve as a buffer for the residents in perpetuity? And that is the ask. We're not changing land development code requirements. We can meet those. The site is constructed. They're very near getting CO. And so no changes to site design or development. It is just the landscaping strip. And with that, here for questions.
All right, I just have a couple. The 3 amendments that we were talking about, including the one tonight, would it be fair to say that in each of those cases, we have reduced the amount of landscaping? Would that be a fair statement?
The original, this is the second amendment, so there's the original PD and the first amendment. Those 2 amendments dealt with waivers that we see, I will say, and again, I wasn't the attorney, but we see that are typical in storage projects, which is that for storage, unless you're looking at the area that fronts that roadway, there's no point in putting building perimeter landscaping. And so you move that out. And that was the justification tied in with, and you can see in the letter in the backup, Joey Posey was the applicant there. They said the existing vegetation creates that visual screening. What we are looking at, this 0.6 acres, is part of that existing vegetation that was adjacent to the site that screens already. And so I think that is the logic. As Danilee noted, yes, when you look at the original landscape plan for the site plan and what we're proposing, there are less trees on that plan because they're in that 0.6 strip to meet code requirements. And it's not a one-to-one swap that the 0.6 matches exactly what was on that original landscape plan, but it is pretty close. The preservation, we're required just over 1,300 inches of trees, and we're over 1,500 and something with the 0.6. So.
If indeed, once we get this building built, then it looks like we're pretty darn close to having it done. Oh,
Yep.
it is done?
Yep.
Well, if that is the case, then we're not going to be talking about another amendment about reducing trees, now that we have that building in place.
is
I'd just
there.
like to
Yep.
put that on the record as well. All right, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chair,
Please.
I went out I drove by the site, and I applaud that you're going to save that strip. And I saw that they were planting trees. What kind of trees are those?
So there's a wide range of trees that are being planted. We can run you through at a high level some of the call outs because I looked at them all for my tree math. So we have red bottlebrush, we have Eagleston holly, southern red cedar, crepe myrtles, Japanese privet, DD Blanchford magnolias, so magnolias, Florida slash pine, live oaks, cabbage palms, and elms. And just to be safe, and we were looking, and city staff has to verify that recalculation, so I think that should be a condition of the approval if you guys move forward with that. To be conservative, you can count palms on a 2-to-1 kind of ratio. We took out palms completely and making sure that we met the requirements because it's just an iffy calculation on how they count. And then there is a large amount of plantings that go towards oak tree mitigation for a different tree that was in the storage or the stormwater area. And we took out that mitigation too. Under the code, you can double count those, but we wanted to be conservative.
So the bottom line is then you are going to preserve that area
Absolutely.
between
It will remain untouched.
untouched. Okay. That I applaud you for that. Thank you.
Did you say that you eliminated the palms?
We did not count them towards the mitigation requirement. They'll still be planted, but in making sure we meet the city requirements, we didn't count those in our numbers.
Can I ask how many?
Sure. I'm intimately related. I'm intimately related with this landscaping plan. So there are 33 inches of cabbage palms on the original landscape plan. So I think that's 16. I think they're 2 each. And then in the additional area for palms, we have 5 palms in there. So 32 inches of those because they're bigger.
You know, because I guess I'm a newcomer. I've only been in Florida 50 years. And, you know, cabbage.
Semi-native.
Yes. And cabbage palms, they just look like telephone poles after a period of time. You know, and I can understand I commend them on the additional property. I think that's good for the residents. I also went out onto the project. But, you know, I always have a problem with palms. Everybody wants to put them in. They're inexpensive, and they don't contribute to anything.
John Nicholson likes some palms. He says there's good ones.
I'm sorry, but they don't
We'll hear
contribute.
from
They don't
John
contribute
here.
to anything, and so
Certainly.
that's what I was wondering about the palm trees. You know, I have no problem with the size of the trees and everything, but I'd like to, you know, think that we could do something a little better with palm trees. Since you are saving a little money on it, put something a little different, something that would contribute to the environment. Palm trees do not do anything.
And there are only 16 of them out of the 500 and something. So they are very small.
I know they're very small, but just those few, if there would be some consideration in there, I think that it would be beneficial to the environment.
Very good. Anything else for Jessica? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We have just one green form here. Mr. Nicholson, come on up and explain all this tree stuff to us, please. I want to see your tree math, sir. Good to have you here tonight.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. As fate would have it, that's one of the things I was going to speak at the end of the meeting. The landscaping. When I sit for breakfast every Sunday at IHOP, right across from me is the Daytona Grand. Their landscaping has fallen into disrepair.
It is.
Which is another question which always happens, and I was going to ask, how long are these landscaping requirements to last? Is it days, weeks, before they're no longer there? Because all of the landscaping at the Daytona Grand between that little blue building and the building itself, it's all gone.
It's all good.
There are 6 sable palms and tons of red mulch. That's it. They had those great palms across the front. One's gone, and the other, they came in sets of 3. It's like 2 left. It's not the first place to do this. Often we have all of this rows of underbrush, okay, all the plantings, and within a year or two, they're gone, all right? So I don't know whether we have to look at our requirements, because I know I got stuck with it when I had the restaurant. I had a beautiful tree in the front, and staff decided that it wasn't a tree. Because cypress is not considered a tree. Cypress is a ground cover. Even though it was 17 feet tall, she called it a ground cover. Then I had a deciduous tree that loses its leaves every winter. And we just happened to have a cold winter that time, and she came out and looked and said, well, it's dead. You have to cut it down. And that, I was required to have 2 trees in the front. And she said, no. You're 105 feet width. You have to have 3 trees. And I said, well, I have 3 trees. 2 are in the front, and then 1, if it lines up with the front of the house, it's considered the front yard. She wouldn't accept that. And then in the back, I had about 700 oak trees and sable palms, and she wouldn't accept them because they were natural. Couldn't understand it. Now, we've been pushing for years to save the trees that are on the existing property. We do not like the clear cutting. This is fantastic. I hope that goes to a bunch of people because she's saying it saves them money, and it actually does. If they save the trees there, there's no irrigation, there's no mowing, there's no anything. It's just natural. All the animals stay, etc. So I commend them for doing so, and I hope we do that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Do we have anyone else who'd like to speak for or against on item 4A? Seeing none, I will ask this board for a motion on item 4A, please.
Just for clarification, we have to do it without the tree.
I would do it with just the condition that staff review the numbers and determine whether or not a waiver would be required as it goes to the city commission.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we approve agenda item 4A, Plan Development DV, General PD DV 2024-766, Second Amendment, Sunglow Mini Storage Complex PD, with the requirement that staff approve for the tree preservation.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 4B. Lucy, if you would.
Item 4B, Daytona Beach Condominium Site Plan. EV 2024675, quasi judicial hearing.
Very good. Here from staff. Mr. O'Brien, how are you tonight?
Doing well, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Amelia O'Brien, Senior Planner, Great City of Daytona Beach. This is item 4B, Major Site Plan Daytona Beach Condominiums. This is a request by David R. Landing of Alliant Engineering, Inc. on behalf of 2000 Atlantic LLC for approval of a major site plan to construct a 2-phase development on a plus or minus 4.16 acre parcel. Phase 1 of the proposed development includes a 2-story sales center. Phase 2 includes a 21-story, 165-unit multifamily residential building with amenities, a 3-level parking garage, and associated site improvements. This picture here shows the site location. I have it broken down. On the west side of North Atlantic Avenue is phase 1 of the proposed development, and on the east side of Atlantic Avenue is phase 2 of the proposed development. The subject site consists of 2 non-contiguous areas lying on both sides of North Atlantic, as I've just described. This is the future land use, tourist accommodations. This is the zoning, tourist accommodations T1. It's an aerial view, and the existing conditions of the site is vacant. So a little background. The existing conditions, the subject site is cleared, vacant, in an urbanized area with minimal above ground improvements, the most notable being a recently improved retaining wall along the ocean front. The proposal for phase 1 consists of 0.33 acres. That's the development area. There's a 2-story, 14,322 square foot sales center, surface parking, landscaping, and associated site improvements proposed for phase 1. Phase 2 is 3.83 acres. It's a 21-story, 165-unit multifamily building with amenities, a 3-level parking garage, landscaping, and associated site improvements for phase 2. The cumulative project area is 4.16 acres, which is equivalent to 181,145 square feet which is relevant in determining the intensity in FAR. The future land use again is tourist accommodations. The maximum allowable intensity is the FAR, which is floor area ratio. The maximum is 3, and the LDC, and also the comprehensive plan, that equates to 543,435 square feet. The maximum residential density is 40 dwelling units per acre, which is equivalent to 166 dwelling units for this site. So this breaks down the intensity a little bit further. The non-residential for phase 1 is 5,014 square feet, phase 5 dwelling units. That's for phase 2, the multifamily residential building. Cumulative for the whole project is 165 dwelling units. The maximum allowable density is 165 dwelling units. So there you go. Zoning, tourist accommodations, T1, phase 1. The proposed sales center is classified as an office accessory to a multifamily complex use and is a permitted accessory use in the T1 zoning district pursuant to the LDC. The sales center meets the standards for specific accessory uses and structures, also pursuant to the LDC. For phase 2, the proposed multifamily building is classified as a multifamily dwelling and is a permitted principal use in the T1 zoning district pursuant to the LDC. The proposed multifamily building meets the standards for specific principal uses, also pursuant to the LDC. Both phases 1 and 2 meet the T1 zoning district intensity and dimensional standards outlined in the LDC. Just to talk about the LDC, they're meeting the zoning requirements and the LDC dimensional standards. Just want to reinforce that as we move forward. What you're looking at now is a parking summary. You have the professional service office and the showroom wholesale. Both of those comprise the sales center. For both of those uses for phase 1, there's a total parking requirement of 15 spaces. They're providing 17. For phase 2, the multifamily building, there's 165 dwelling units. They're required to provide 2 spaces per dwelling unit. That requirement comes out to 330 spaces. They're providing 333 spaces. For the entire development, they're required to provide 345 parking spaces, and they're providing 350, meaning they're meeting the requirement. This is the proposed site plan. This is the proposed architectural elevation for the sales center. This is a rendering of that sales center. This is the architectural elevations for the proposed multifamily building. This is a rendering of that multifamily building. This is another rendering of that multifamily building in context with the surrounding developments. This is the proposed landscape plan. This is also the proposed landscape plan. This is the last sheet for that landscape plan.
The last.
With that, staff recommends approval of the Daytona Beach Condominiums major site plan application to develop a 2-story sales center and a 21-story, 165-unit multifamily building with the proposed amenities, a 3-level parking garage, and associated site improvements. A majority vote of the planning board members present and voting is required to approve the site plan. With that, staff concludes its presentation.
Thank you, sir. Question for you before you run up, Mr. O'Brien. So if I'm understanding this correctly, at this point, we have no waivers being asked for from the Land Development Code. Am I correct?
That is correct.
And because of that fact, that means we're checking all the major site plan boxes for this applicant. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, just want to make sure we got that on the record. Do we have any other questions for staff, please?
I just want to make a quick comment. I'm
Please.
glad we're not driving 1.5 car, 1.2 car, or something like that. It's just 2 whole cars this time, so that's,
Yeah.
that's
Slicing
observation.
and dicing can be challenging, yes.
It can. No,
Anything
it's
else?
Is it one or two condominiums?
It's 2 phases. On the west side of Atlantic Avenue, they're going to put a sales center
Okay.
with surface parking. On the east side of Atlantic Avenue, that's where you'll see the 165-unit condominium building, also a 3-story parking garage, and amenities and associated site improvements.
Okay.
Anything else for Mr. O'Brien? Thank you, sir.
you.
Appreciate it very much. Okay, moving forward, do we have any speakers? First, we have a Denise Jones.
Application.
Can we start with the
I'm sorry, let's talk with the applicant. I was moving forward.
Visible
As
over
you
here.
know, Rob is dying to tell us all
I
the
really don't
history
have much
of
to
this.
say. I'll be brief, as lawyers say, right?
Please,
Rob Merrill for the record with Cobb
I
Cole,
leaned down and,
1 Daytona Boulevard. I have learned my address, like Jessica mentioned earlier. Great job, Emilio. Thank you very much. That was very thorough. And I don't have much to add. I don't want to reiterate what he said. I will go to the very last thing he said, though, because, Mr. Chair, you raised a good question on the previous application, which was, what exactly was your recommendation again? In this case, it's very clear. It's a recommendation of approval.
Yes.
And in this case, good questions that you asked about, the things that we're asking for here. So you guys normally see me asking for PDs that have, waivers or variances or, variations that are usually negotiated. There's some negotiation of given and taken. That's not what we're doing here. I think you guys realize that, and you mentioned it earlier. I think your staff certainly knows that we've gone through a process to get here. I've got a whole group of folks behind me here that have been through that technical review process that takes, I think, a lot of time to get through the details of demonstrating compliance, consistency with your comprehensive plan, compliance with all of the provisions in your land development code. I call it a checking of boxes, and I think you actually said that, Mike, too, which that's kind of what we do here. When we're in a site plan review process or a plat, plat not anymore because it goes straight to the administrative process, but we check the boxes off. And as long as your staff says those boxes are properly checked, it's a given, if you will, right? This is an incredible project. We haven't seen a lot of new residences on the ocean front in Daytona Beach. I've got some in some other places, but I hope you can welcome these guys here to bring a quality project to our beachfront. It's what we need. I think we all know that, and it checks off all the boxes. The architecture's phenomenal. We've done all the things that you've asked of us in terms of every nuance. I'll drop back to tell you that that's not how this started. We started with the plan development. There were some places we had to waiver from and things we were going to do. We had a neighborhood meeting with the neighbors. We talked about those things. They didn't like those things. So we went back to square one and we said, you know what? We're going to build this thing by code. And you guys haven't seen me say that often. And it's normally because your code has provisions that just don't work for certain situations, whether it's the site constraints or the building configuration or whatever. In this case, we were able to do it. So kind of proud of that. And hopefully this makes your job easier. And so you got a whole team, like I said, to answer any questions you guys might have, technical questions, because that's kind of where we are, technicalities here. So that's all for me.
All right, well, now that I've actually realized that Rob is up here, let's ask if there's any questions for him, please, this is the time. Don't believe so.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
That's a first.
How about that? Now, let's move forward on our speaker sheets to Denise Jones. Denise, come on up, please. Remember, name and address for the record, if you would, please. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Denise Jones. I'm a resident of 1900 North Atlantic Avenue, Island Crown. I'm also representing the board. So before we start, I want to, off topic, thank you from 70 residents within our building providing back the proper turning lanes. We were all very involved with that and concerned about the safety, and it's a great community and we didn't want accidents happening in front of our building. So thank you for making that happen. It was nice to pull in this evening and see it. I'm here today because I've been involved with the community for 17 years. I overlook the vacant lot, and I'm very proud that the developer actually put the seawall back in because we lived through rebuilding our seawall, and it came to a cost of $3 million that the homeowners had to absorb. Right now, we're here to voice our concerns about the project because of the fact that we're concerned about the setbacks. We're also concerned about the utilization of the land, and we're also concerned about the impacts to the infrastructure. I say that because we were flooded multiple times when the water and sewer backed up into our building. This was 3-4 years ago. We brought our concerns forward. Again, we worked with the city. We paid for a lot of things out of our own pockets that brought our building back to where it is today. We're concerned about if the building comes in next to our property, there will be large impacts and risks that the city has to address in terms of the water, the sewage, as well as the services. I feel that the city of Daytona Beach will have an impact to their services with fire and security. So I just wanted to come down and speak and represent our board and just say thank you for everything, and thank you for making Daytona Beach a great place to live.
Thank you, Denise. That's very much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question? What board are you representing then?
I'm representing Island Crown Condo Association, 1900 North Atlantic Beach. We have 5 board members there. I sit as the secretary, so they've asked me to come down and make a public representation at the planning meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have Mr. Nicholson. Come on up, sir. You know the routine.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grand River Avenue. A couple of things. One, before I forget, which I'm prone to do, on a previous project on A1A, they had an out parcel as well. They had wanted to put in a dog park on it. It's right next to the Seabreeze Recreation Center. The project is now finished, and it has been for 6 months to a year, but that parcel is still undeveloped. So, one, I know it's none of my business, but what are they going to do with that parcel when it's done? Hopefully, it'll be sold for retail, and it can be used, or they could be turning it into a rec center for themselves. Whatever it's going to be, I'd like to know. Secondly, I'd like the project. I'm glad we're getting residents. I'm glad he came back and he didn't desert us. But I would have liked 2 separate, narrow condominiums, matching what we've done since the 1990s, okay? The whole argument back then was tall and narrow, not long and wide because of the shade on the beach. This will basically only hinder themselves, but it still creates a gap for those who, because it is a public beach, for those that want to have sun in the afternoon. I understand the problems he had with the neighbors, and I can't do anything about that. I want development. The building is interesting. The landscaping, he went so fast. I know there's a tree there somewhere, but I can't tell you. I know the front. I caught that. But the sides, if you remember at Driftwood, there's literally nothing on the sides. And you went basically within 3 feet of the property line, and there's just gravel for most of what you can see. So I'd really be interested when this comes back to see how much landscaping is between them and the neighbors, because both the tower and the other buildings that are there have landscaping front and back. So this is going to be more like the Mediterranean. The Mediterranean moved all the way to the front. It's like about a driveway and 2 inches of landscaping. So that kind of thing, I would rather have denser, 27, 32, 109 stories high, and more landscaping, then there's wall-to-wall cement. So I personally think we screwed up with the apartments because it's literally lot line to lot line. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Before I ask for a motion on this, unless there's anyone else who would like to speak on this item, I'd like to ask a question of Mr. Russell, if I could. David, with this particular item that has no waivers, no deviations from the LDC, let's assume for the sake of argument that this body denied this application. What legal challenges would we have to go through if indeed a decision like that would be made?
Well, the LDC provides for an appeal process to the city commission. Absent that, there could be legal action that might be taken that the city would have to defend, and we would have to demonstrate that there is competent, substantial evidence to support a denial in this case. And you have to look at the criteria that's set forth in the Land Development Code and determine whether or not competent, substantial evidence was presented to support or oppose those criteria. And so in the absence of evidence that goes against those criteria, there really wouldn't be a basis for denying.
And that is essentially what we have here. Would that be correct?
I leave that to the board's discretion to determine, but
I'm trying to push it on you, David. I'm just trying to get a legal perspective on that to understand if indeed we have a situation, which we do, no waivers, no deviations, we check all the boxes, as Rob and I both like to say, that this is a situation that really there's, at least in my opinion, that there's just one path to go down, and that should be approval. Rob, do you have any
Mike,
other
I just want to
comments?
say, and you're going down the right road, I think, here, but to the extent that David's talking about competent, substantial evidence, when folks get up and make comments about, or ask questions about an application like this, I'd like to have the opportunity to at least try to address those to the extent that we make sure that the record is clear about what the evidence shows. The most important thing I'll say to you is the stack of paperwork that he's got in his file is the competent and substantial evidence, not what we're talking about tonight is the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of stuff that goes underneath the iceberg, under the water, that gives rise to that, and that's in your record. So whether you read through it all or not, that's up to you guys, but it's there, I can tell you that. But the comments that were raised, I want to make sure that we're courteous and address the folks that, I'll start with John, which, John was talking about things like landscaping, which he didn't get a chance to look at, but I'm happy to show him that. We have plenty of things we can show him on the details of the landscaping. One of the highlights is we talked about side setbacks, and John wanted 2 skinny buildings instead of 1 building. This has 125-foot setbacks on either side. It's unheard of in Daytona Beach.
Sure is.
So John's right that some of the philosophy of the setback versus height thing was to make it so you have a view shed. This has a lot of view shed on either side. And so two buildings, 1 building, it has, I think, the purpose and intent of what we came up with in this scheme in our Land Development Code. I will say, though, that, and I'm going a little off script here to tell you, there are places in your code that you could do differently that would still have some of the effect John's talked about. That's why we're usually here with the PD, right? And we've had some other situations that you guys have looked at and said, you know what, it's not exactly what this code requires based on that thing that we did 16, 17 years ago, but it looks pretty good and it works. So in this case, it does meet those standards. That's the key. So Denise was asking about setbacks. That was the first thing that I think she brought up. And so I just told you about that. Side yard setbacks are the biggest thing that we think about when we're neighbors, right? Impacts to infrastructure. She talked about flooding, sewage, fire, security. I wouldn't want to address those things necessarily. They've all been addressed in the record. I would say that your staff is probably better suited to address those things to the extent Dennis or anybody else wants to, but I wanted to make sure she wasn't thinking that we didn't address those things.
Yep.
That's
I
all.
appreciate you wrapping that up, Rob. Thank you.
I would like to talk to the owner.
Oh,
He's sitting there just itching to say something.
Go ahead. Oh, he'll sign up a green sheet after that.
all right, we'll trust him on that one. Go right ahead. Name and address for the record, if you would.
Thanks, Rob. Matt Bassaraba, 9508 Windy Ridge, Windermere, Florida. So Orlando. So we're not too far from you guys. We're based out of Orlando. So go ahead.
Windmere's a nice area. I'm
Thank
from
you.
Orlando.
Okay.
I want to thank you. We don't get residents on the beach too often. It's mostly, hopefully, hotels. I think we need people that live in the city and on the beach. It's kind of amazing that, not a lot of variances on this. I do like the setback, excuse me, like John said, away from the sidewalk, not building so close to the sidewalk. But I commend you, and I look forward to seeing you start. Do you have any starting date? I know it's preliminary, but...
Yeah, well, we're going to get, the first and foremost, we would get going on the sales center, and that's the purpose of the phased approach.
Sure.
I mean, you need 40+% pre-sales in order to start a condo tower, so first and foremost would be that. I think we were extremely lucky to find this property. 500 linear feet on the ocean is pretty special. With the property across the street that you can have a sales center on, it's not a mobile trailer. It's not some pamphlets in someone's office that's next door or down the road. I mean, that the purpose of the sales center being elevated on a second story, it will always look over the water and see that even while we're under construction, even after it's built. So we were lucky to find this piece, and that helped us have all that side yard setbacks. And we did put a pretty substantial investment to rebuild or to build the new seawall that's in place. We put retards in to ensure there's no shoring coming from the neighbors to protect them. It's not a requirement, but while we were under construction on that seawall, we had seismic meters placed on either property line to ensure we weren't shaking foundations of neighbors, which we would do the same when it comes time to construction. We're far enough set back from them, it's not required, but we would do so, for our own insurance purposes, but also to protect the neighbors, so it ensures that nothing happens. The alarm goes off as immediately as it triggers. But we have enough setback that usually doesn't happen. So
I walk on the beach every day. I live here on Beachside. And the seawalls that are going up, it's pretty spectacular. And I commend you on that starting. That's usually one of the things that sometimes builders overlook before they start the project, getting it prepared. Saves a lot of time and energy and money to have it behind you.
yeah, we were hoping to roll that into the construction budget, but we had to come out of pocket and cash to do that well in advance. But now we have a beautiful UC 95 that will stand the test of time.
Absolutely, and I'm very aware of the site, and I look forward to you starting.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments, since we have this young man up here? No. With that, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thanks for coming all the way here from Windermere. With that, may I have a motion for item 4B, please?
Yeah, I make a motion, we approve agenda item 4B, major site plan approval, DAV 2024-675, Daytona Beach condominiums.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Rob, good seeing you. Bye, Jessica. See you guys. Have a good evening. All right, moving forward to item 4C. Dennis, I understand this is a walk-on, as they call it.
Yeah.
Kind of last-minute slip-in on us, but
Yeah.
we'll be glad to handle that.
Land Development Code, Text Amendment, Section 3.4.dd, DEV 2025-652, Legislative Hearing.
Thank you, Lucy. Okay. Dennis, what do we need to know about this?
Well, thank you very much for this. This is an add-on. This is something I came in late. Thank you to our legal department for helping us out here.
I'll take the blame for it. We did request that staff present this item.
Yeah, so this is a request from Growth Management and Planning Department of Planning Division to amend the Land Development Code, Section 3.4.dd, which is application-specific procedures for reasonable accommodations, to add allowances for certified recovery residences in compliance with Florida Senate Bill 954. So Florida Senate Bill 954 was approved in July of 2025. The bill established procedures for the review and approval of for the use certified recovery residences. The city is required to adopt the code change to address these certified recovery residences by January 1st of 2026. We are working on a more detailed and comprehensive LDC text amendment to address these requirements from the state. And we're planning on bringing it to the planning board next month. But because we have to have something in place by the first of the year, we wanted to introduce something that was going to cover us to make sure that we're meeting all of the Florida statute requirements. So what we're going to be doing is adding into our reasonable accommodation section of the Land Development Code, number 8, to deal with certified recovery residences. And it'll state that the reasonable accommodation process, which we currently have in place, shall apply to review and approval of the certified recovery residences within the city. To the extent the procedures outlined in this section conflict with the required section by 397.487 of the Florida statutes as amended by Senate Bill 954, the requirements of the statute shall apply. So what this says is that we are going to follow the Florida statute requirements regardless. As far as a recommendation, we do recommend approval of the amendment to Section 34DD of the Land Development Code to add the allowances for certified recovery residents in compliance with Senate Bill 954. Majority vote of the planning board members present and voting is required to recommend approval to the City Commission, and we are going to turn this around. It's going to be on the City Commission agenda for first reading December 3rd, and for second reading and approval December 17th, so we'll be able to make the January 1st date. And that concludes the presentation, unless, David, you want to add anything?
I'm happy to answer any questions about it, but I think Dennis covered everything.
Okay.
And this is mostly a housekeeping item to ensure that we're compliant with state law.
Gentlemen, just help me a little bit. Could we define what a certified recovery residence is?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I even have it I've got it here in the staff report. It's
I thought I saw it there somewhere.
defined by Florida statutes. It's a recovery resident that holds a valid certificate of compliance and is actively managed by a certified recovery residence administrator. So it's a licensed facility that we have to make accommodations for.
And we're going the amendment that's going to be coming forward next month is going to be a more comprehensive amendment that deals with community residences in general. We've been working with a consultant for the better part of over a year now, probably, just working through a study that would ensure that we're complying with the Fair Housing Act as it relates to multiple types of community residences, including sober homes. And so it's going to create some spacing requirements. It's going to ensure that we're compliant with the law. The legislature has enacted this legislation that requires us to adopt something before the end of the year. And so that other text amendment that's going to be coming forward next month is going to comply with this legislation. But we have to have something adopted.
But it'll comply at a minimum, but it'll be enhanced beyond it.
Correct.
All right. With that, any other questions, Vernon? I saw you were in. No? Anybody? Mr. Robinson, please.
Does that mean one of these facilities can be right next door to my house?
So it'd be through the reasonable accommodation process. And so that would create certain procedures that would be required to meet in order for that to happen. It's the more
Is it like an assisted living facility? Like one of those, or a nursing home or something like that? Can they put one? Say my neighbor has a 4-bedroom house, right? And they want to turn it into a certified recovery residence. Can they do that? Will they be able to do that?
They would have to meet the criteria that the state law has established and follow the procedures that legislation has established. What we are going to be bringing forward next month is something that's more comprehensive, that is going to limit, it's going to create spacing requirements that would ensure that those types of community residences aren't centralized in one area of the city. And so, I think that will help alleviate any concerns about one coming in right next door to your house or something like that. But you'll see next month when we have the study that comes forward, it'll be more comprehensive than this item. This item's purely to comply with what the state's mandating that we do. And so it's just to ensure that we're following state law.
Yeah, I'm all for the certified recovery residences. However, my concern is that everybody says not in my neighborhood. And what ends up is that they go to the lower socioeconomic neighborhood to put these residents in, but they're never in the other upper income neighborhoods. And that's my concern, that you don't, like you say, have them consolidated, in one area of the city because the land is cheap or it's a lower socioeconomic, so they don't have a voice. They have a voice, but they're not as expressive as the $1 million homes section of the city.
I think some of your questions are probably best going to be answered when we have the consultant in at the next meeting, and he can give a more detailed response on some of those concerns.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Aren't some of these things just, say like, I've got a garage and I've got an apartment over top of it where it's allowable, and it used to be in certain zones that you could have it and, and a lot of places you couldn't. It's just making, or mini houses, something that's 800 square feet. In this kind of the affordable fare or act that's going to allow certain things that we don't allow in our code right now?
Well, I don't know if you can say we don't allow it in our code right now. There are a lot of instances where we do allow and we're required to allow certain things.
Well, the only
from
place that you
state and
allow
federal
now is
regulations.
in just certain zones.
But you're talking about maybe the smaller house, something more an affordable type living situation.
Sure.
That's not exactly what this is. This is a little bit different, and these are meeting some federal requirements that we're bound to follow with some of these residential homes. So
Because the Affordable Care Act is just basically the size of the home. Where it's,
location sometimes. yeah.
location, and that's basically what they're enforcing into my, what it
Well,
sounds to me like.
That those federal and state processes will be moving through and will give us a better idea of what options we have, if any, when would we get them. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
Because I know we've been talking about it in the city for a long time, and we've just never really did anything about it.
Well, in some instances, we just have to follow what the state tells us we have to follow.
yes.
And
Sometimes you're
That's
dictated to, and that's
where
just,
we are.
Okay.
just unfortunately the way it is. Any other comments, concerns? I'm fairly confident we do not have any speakers on this subject since I don't see a single soul in the audience. So I'm very confident we can move forward to ask for a motion on item 4C, please.
Make a motion on item 4C, Land Development Code Text Amendment, Section 3.4.DD, DV 2025-652, provide a certified recovery readiness residential through the reasonable accommodation process.
I second.
Very, very good. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Moving to item number 5, we'll run through these, see if there's any comments need to be made. Downtown redevelopment? Anything on downtown redevelopment? No. How about Midtown? How about Beachside? Moving quickly.
Most of
Go ahead, I'm
the
sorry.
things on Beachside are, they're talking about a lot of parking issues. Sign issues, different enhancements in the downtown area, but nothing really substantial.
You and I were thinking the same word. Okay? Well, it is what it is.
I'm sorry, and I
Go right ahead.
don't want
Go ahead,
to
John.
make this meeting longer than it needs to be, but they did have a presentation on improvements to Main Street and the Main Street area
Yes, they did.
of doing some streetscape improvements. We had a consultant come in and provided over at the Peabody a couple of nights ago, and they did a great presentation about some of the improvements that could be happening down there. So that's pretty exciting that we're seeing some of those things come together.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. All right, affordable housing, just a couple of things. The committee itself will be presenting the 2025 Incentive Review and Recommendation Report, ta-da, through SHIP, here it is. That will be presented to the City Commission next month. We also talked about a little bit, because this particular committee is not widely known, and in a lot of cases, folks are curious of how they can be helpful, how they can present information, how could we determine what is a desirable affordable housing option and what isn't. It's complicated. So we're looking to do a presentation at one of the City Commission meetings in December, just to give our citizens and also our City Commission just some guidance on what we're attempting to do, and if indeed they have some information that they would like to present to us, what is the avenue to be able to get that done? So hopefully we will begin that process and be able to have this committee actually functioning and be substantial, to use your word, Vernon. So we'll see where that goes. Also want to share with you, only because I know you folks are out and about a lot in the community, and it is may be helpful. You could pass that down, Vernon, I appreciate it. Pass that down to, in fact, I'll give you one, Dennis. What this is, gentlemen, is it is a grant program that it appears that they have found a pot of $632,000, that's my chicken scratching at the top, to be able to use for a grant program up to $15,000 for residents that were affected by either Hurricane Ian or Nicole. There's still people out there still trying to make that work from the damage that's going on. The nice thing about a grant, as I'm sure you all know, is that it isn't a loan. It doesn't need to be repaid if you qualify for it. I'm not going to bore you with all the details here, but I wanted to, at least you folks are aware, if you know of someone who could very well qualify for this, it's up to $15,000 that they don't have to pay back. So I just wanted to give you this information. I'll be glad to answer any questions that I can about it, but I wanted you guys to be aware of it.
Do they have to show something that they've applied to their insurance, or it doesn't cover it, or
My
they
understanding,
have damage, or
my understanding is no, is that the requirement documents is they have an application they fill out, ID, so we know who they are, proof of income and ownership, a utility bill that says, hey, I actually live here, and any other applications that might be applicable. In fact, it even has scanning code that you can scan and get the actual application itself and fill it out even before you show up at the some of these help sessions that you can see on the second layer there. So just a good thing, you can see down the bottom right if for questions or folks where the contacts are. Sometimes the biggest problem on these types of situations, gentlemen, is that people aren't aware that these programs exist. So at least we can, get the word out, and if there's folks that have been affected by these two storms and they have some of these issues like roofing, HVAC, flooring, drywall, this is a way that the city can reach out and help. So with that, unless there's any other questions, I'll move forward. No public comments, staff comments. Anything, Dennis?
Yeah, real quickly, last meeting, Mr. Robinson, you were asking some questions about affordable housing and definitions. I provided our code section on affordable housing that has some definitions, and there's some references to Florida statutes on definitions, and I included those statutes as well. So have those for your records.
that is very complete. I went over it and I learned something.
Good.
There you go. Thank you, Dennis. We appreciate you responding to that.
Everybody have a very happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Any board member comments other than wishing you all the best of the Thanksgiving and holiday season till we all get together in December? With that, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much for your time.